Hey there, we're just dropping in very quickly before the latest episode of Lightspeed to tell you all about our new compilation, Calescent.
That's right. We've got 14 tracks from artists around the globe, some on the Audionautic roster and others in the independent electronic community. And we tasked them with writing a song inspired by winter warmth, the changing weather, and what it means to them. We're stoked about it, and a portion of the proceeds will be going to the World Federation for Mental Health. You can check out the link to the pre-order and more about the World Federation for Mental Health at the link in the description.
The compilation is out on the 21st of December, the winter solstice. You'll be able to find it in digital, and we will be doing a small run of CDs, should that be your thing as well.
Yeah, check it out at the link in the description and enjoy the next Lightspeed. Hello and welcome to Lightspeed, where we discuss music and music production related topics. My name is Sunwarper.
And my name is Curtis. Thank you ever so much for joining us this week. Today, we're discussing ways in which you can save time in your studio and ways in which you can increase your workflow. We've got some tips and tricks. Hopefully, you can find them of some use.
Yeah, so today I figured we'll start just talking a little bit about a couple different ways, and we can just go back and forth about it. And then Curtis is going to share a screen of a track you're working on now, right?
It's the very, very beginnings of a track.
There we go. So it'll show how he's planning to save time in this session and future sessions for that track.
Yeah, completely. So, Sunwarper, let's go with what you like to do.
Yeah, so there's a couple, and the first one I actually got as a tip from Spectre, who, when we first interviewed him, over a year ago now, he mentioned that he likes to use templates. And it's not something I always do. In fact, I try not to do it, but I have a few set, like an ambient, a lo-fi house style track, IDM type stuff. And in it, I have a couple of synths that are patches I made, and then I'll have a drum sampler that has specific sounds that I like for that genre and effects on it, a different compressor, different distortions, etc., a bass, and then sometimes a few audio tracks queued just in case I want to use some hardware or guitars. So what that enables you to do is just start. You have the sounds, and I wouldn't say stick with the sounds. I mean, you could, but I don't like things to sound consistently like the same, like, it's this patch and diva every time, or this guitar. So with those sounds, you have a MIDI keyboard, or if you want to use the piano roll, you just start going, and it's right there, it's all there. Usually I'll start with a drum beat just to kind of get my head working and go, okay, here we go. But anyway, so that's templates. It's just a nice way to start. Like I said, I don't like to start that way. I like to look at a blank screen, a blank canvas, and just go, okay, I want a piano, I want this, or start with piano and then just add synths later. But it's just a good way, if you're really stuck, you can just start there and have something. And so the next one kind of ties into templates. It's more like templates for a specific sound or for a specific synth. It's make your own presets and save those. So I know Josh is going to talk about this in a little bit, but don't always spend time working on music, like specifically writing music. Sometimes it's good to take a session and do, sound design. And so when you do something like that, you save those synths, and then you never know. You go, I want a wobbling type, lo-fi sound on a synth. Boom, you've got that preset, and then you can build it from there. But you can just start. Like the key that you'll probably notice, a running theme here in all of these, is just get you started right away.
Yeah, especially when it comes to production, like, you're in the moment and you're jamming, and you need that Rhodes sound there now. You need it yesterday. You don't need to go, fuck, I need it. How do I make it?
Yeah.
You need it there.
Yeah, and it's nice to have, like, even a Rhodes, something that, is usually just a sampler. You just throw it on. But maybe you want to put a delay and then a reverb, and then really compress that reverb and delay so that it's like this really big, crazy sound, like dreamy sound. Well, you could have that as a template, and then you just throw it on there, a preset. You just throw it on there, and then you can change it from there, but you have that to start. So you just get your brain writing rather than going through paralysis of analysis of hundreds of VSTs or something,
Yeah, completely. I mean, the amount of times, like for me, it's even with stuff with how everything I have on my desk is ready to go, but then my guitars are like, they're not all plugged in, and sometimes they're not in tune,
Yeah.
especially the bass that I've got there, the new bass I got.
Yeah.
And it's like, this really needs a bass. Oh, fuck. Okay, so I've got to get it, got to tune it up, and I've got to get everything in place, kind of things. I suppose that extends to hardware as well. In that sense.
It does. It does.
Have everything ready to go.
That's why I like. I mean, it looks kind of bare right now because I've got the Prophet over there, but I always have that circuit set up, which has been really nice to just get away from the computer and no VSTs, no options. Like you get the circuit and 2 cents and that's it or whatever, but like I have my pedal board set up on the ground behind me. The only thing I need is a better interface that I can plug them all in direct, because I have to juggle which ones are plugged in all the time, but we'll get there.
One day we'll have a studio like Eon Lakes, and then
there we go.
So we've had a look at sound design, we've had a look at templates. What else? What's next on your list?
So this goes a little different. This is more once you've got stuff written and you're not quite mixing, you still maybe want to add things or something, but that's kind of where you want to stop. Like set some limits to the amount of tracks. Like I know Eon Lake, his whiteboard always has certain parameters he follows. Well, one thing that I like to do is just say like, I'm not going to go past 12 tracks or something while I'm writing. When I'm mixing, if you want to make bounces and things to do reverses and stuff like that, that's great. But like when you're writing, if you just want to get through it, you set some limits. Like, okay, I'm only going to have this many. And then you have to work around that limitation. Like what I was saying with the circuit, there's the circuit which has 2 synths built in and then the 2 MIDI synths. And that's it. Now your brain has to start figuring out, well, how can I make things interesting, make transitions with such a small amount of tracks?
Yeah, it's complete. Like I'm still after all this time working on track with Spectre for Psychonautic Volume 2. It's huge, and I didn't set any parameters at the beginning, and I've just gone right. It's going to be a thing, and it just keeps getting bigger. And now it's so big, and the only way to get through it is to add more. Set those parameters at the beginning. That would never happen.
Yeah. Now I will say, like I've said with everything else, you don't always want to do this. Sometimes you want creativity to just flow and don't put any limitation on it. Like with that song, it's fine. But if you're trying to get through something, or you have writer's block and you're just trying to get back into it, it's good to use something like this. And so a bit tied to it is bounce MIDI to audio. It's just so much easier if you just commit, say, okay, I like this sound, commit. It's audio, you can't go back. You could always, and I think we talked about this with Eon Lake on a Star Stream, but you can always save the project from before, save it as a MIDI project, or just as an old project file of it, and make a new one that's like bounce to audio, project file bounce to audio, and then if you ever do have a problem, you can go back. So that's kind of my compromise now, is that I'll commit to the audio, but I have it backed up if I need it.
That's a good way of doing it, and it creates some finality, it creates some progression. Because we could just go on forever if we wanted to. We've had a look at some of the ideas, that see some of them practice, because we share a lot of the same things in workflow. So we're currently having a look at this particular project file of mine. This is brand new. I think I started this about 3 days ago. So 3 days from whatever today is. And so first off, this is like a template that I use, as you can see. So you've got anything that's going through the Nova, my Ultra Nova in here. You've got guitar bus ready to go, general secondary outputs and MIDIs over here. Some like defined and ready to go, what I'm going to use them for, because I know kind of the structure of what I'm going to do. And you've got some general kind of percussion going on over here. And
is this your typical start file?
Yeah, this is live 3.3. So this is like the aim really is, again, so I can just walk up to the computer and just go, right, let's play. And then everything's plugged in, ready to go and routed to the right place, and just start playing. And so this is currently where we're working at. And as you can see, there's a voice sample down here, and I've only got 2 layers so far, and I've got 3 empty MIDI files here, which they probably won't end up being MIDI. I mean, I've labeled them as RARPs, so they probably will end up being RARP, rhythmic arpeggiator.
How do you get 2 A's out of that, though?
Because like a dinosaur, rawr.
Okay.
So yeah. Now this particular piece is going to be quite long. By the looks of things, it's going to be, the original recording that I'm taking it from is about an hour long, and it's not going to be an hour long, but I'm cutting up pieces and it's turning out to be quite long. You know me, I love long songs.
That I do.
Yeah, and actually, to be fair, a lot of the album that I'm working on is actually quite short.
Ooh.
It's actually quite short. Yeah.
Nice.
But this happens to be a really long one. this is basically a story, and it's quite a complicated story, or at least while I'm working on it. So as you can see, it's actually very blank, but I'm working ahead so I don't get lost. So I'm going to add these later in, as you can see. And what I've done is, as you can see from the top, I've kind of cut up. If we fix to 2 bars, I've kind of cut up where parts of the story change.
Oh, that is some dark story, man. Poor Curtis is going through the rigor.
Well, don't you know it? Eh? So yeah, change, suffering, no self, etc. It's a kind of it's a thing about Buddhism, and it's a thing about oneness and selfness. That's basically where I'm working with. And so yeah, as you can see, I haven't actually done much in the project itself, but I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking like 2 or 3 steps ahead when I actually put these things down. You know, I'm creating the points at which new things are introduced, as you can see from the MIDI lines here. And I'm creating bars as to when things kind of come out and go in again. So that next time I go in, I'm not starting from scratch, and I don't spend my time going, oh, what was I doing? What was I doing? I can go, okay, so I want to do this. I want to add this. I want to add that, you know, that kind of thing. And just, again, speeds up that whole process, which, I mean, I wonder why would you want to speed up your process? But I mean, some of us do it just because it's fun, I suppose. But yeah, it helps me at least with my workflow and allows me to not.
I think that's the why. Is that if you're a type of person that needs, you know, some form of structure when you're getting through a track, then I like this idea because you're creating that structure visually before you've even got the sounds or audio. You know, like before you even have that composition in your mind, it's like, okay, I can see this is how it's going to expand, and then now you just have to actually add the chords, the hard part. But it's a lot easier now because you know, like, oh, this thing's coming in here, so now I want it to kind of sound like this to make this movement so that when the next one comes in, it does this.
Yeah, and it helps enormously, especially with like when you're telling a story and stuff like that.
Yeah,
because that's what we do. We're telling stories, and you know, you have to hit certain points for expression and stuff like that. You know, build, tension, release, etc. And it kind of mathematically it makes sense. So yeah. That's how this works. So yeah, that's a little insight into what's going on over there. So yeah.
I like that. No, it's a really cool idea, and I mean, I just said it, but I'll say it again. Just having that visual storytelling laid out in front of you, I could see that being very helpful when you start putting, I mean, it's not pen to paper, but, you know, hand to keyboard, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, when you start putting down those chords and things, even though, yeah, you have to figure out the chord progressions and things like that, it's like you know where you want it to go, so you can kind of figure out the chords that you want to put there to make those movements and sounds and emotions.
Yeah, completely. And so it helps. I mean, it's a great way in order to just make everything less kind of, you know, like, again, coming back to what you were saying about kind of making a final decision on something. You know, I've put those things in there. Now that's fixed. That's the structure, and that's going to have to be what I work with. You know, and obviously you can mold and change a little bit, but you're going in with a preconceived idea, which allows you just to, again, that paralysis of analysis isn't there. So you can go, right, this is what I'm going to do. And you can go in with a certain amount of confidence and say, this is the right decision to make, which ultimately produces better results, in my experience.
Yeah. So these are some of the ways that we try to save time in our sessions. And like we've said before, we don't always do these things. Sometimes it's good to have some expansion, but, you know, we're always trying to learn. We're always trying to grow. It's like our label mate Sound Phaser said, we're lifelong learners. You know, we're just always trying to learn. So with that in mind, we always want to hear from you guys at home. So let us know in the comments or on Twitter, what do you guys do to try to save time? Do you do templates? Do you have something different? Do you not like doing that? Whatever it is, we want to hear it.
Yeah, always. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. We are supported by the guys over on Patreon. Thank you very much indeed. You guys are awesome. If you wanted yourself to become a patron and support the work we do, help us do more of this, because that's what we love to do, then feel free to head over to our Patreon. The link is in the description below. And subscriptions start, or pledges start, I should say, at only $2. And you get yourself an exclusive podcast all for you called Starstream with Leon Leak. And it allows, you also get, apart from that, it allows us to give you extra content, bonus content, early access to things like that, to our content. And basically allows us to do this more, because we really enjoy this.
Yeah, and on that note, we have a lot of goals in mind and things that we want to do in the future, and we've outlined the goals on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/audionautic. If you want to check it out, we would love to have you over there. We have a lot of fun. We have a Twitter group with our patrons that's exclusive to them. We talk about all kinds of stuff. They can talk about gear, things like that. But yeah, so we'd love to see you there. Check it out. And a special shout out to our Audionautic Engineer, McKinleyA.
Yeah, you're awesome. So yeah, thank you very much indeed. Next week, we have a brand new radio show. So we'll see you then. For now, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening.